Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Singh or Naya. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So, seeing videos or seeing white leftists coming to Black content corridor to tell them what to do and what not to do is crazy. And if you are a Black person and you get that kind of message or something, you know what to do. Yes, because it's only Black people that I see these people have power on. They tell Black people what to do, what not to do, how to react, how to feel. I do not see them telling Palestinians how to feel about the genocide that is going on in their country, right? I do not see them telling the Jews how to feel or react about what they went through. It is only them coming to Black people to tell them how to react, how to feel about what they have been through or what they are going through. Like, these people do not actually understand that Black people are still going through genocide at this point in time. How is that hard for you people to understand? They are always like, why is it that everything is about race when it comes to Black people? But you and I know that America was built on race, true or false, right? So why are you people always quick to call Black people that you all are ready to call somebody racist or something? Yeah, majority of you are actually that. That is what you are. And you go around showing all your energy in Black content creators pages and all that, telling them how to react, how to feel, and all that. You all ain't getting it right. And if you are a Black content creator, you know what to do when you see them. Let's get into this video.
I know I'm not the only one that gets upset when a white leftist drops down into my comment section and tries to tell me as a Black man what I need to do. Don't talk to me. Please don't talk to me, because you are going to get cursed the fuck out. Because I know you bitches aren't talking to white people the way you're talking to us. The way you're disrespecting us. The way you're trying to lecture us. You're not doing that with white people. If you actually wanted to fix things, you would be talking to white people. You wouldn't even be wasting your time with us. Why do you think Bernie is doing these Stop the Oligarchy tours in predominantly white area? I literally had to explain this to people. I said, Bernie's doing exactly what we want you guys to do. We want you guys to actually start talking to white people. Stop talking at us and talk to white people. As much as I am critical of a lot of Bernie supporters, I understand what Bernie and AOC are doing, because we have consistently said, stop talking to us because we're not the problem. White people are the problem. So what Bernie's doing with the Stop the Oligarchy tour is he's focusing on these predominantly white areas where he could actually sway these people or get them to understand how they are contributing to what's happening in this country and around the world. 99.9999999% of the problems in this world can be directly traced back to white supremacy and white imperialism. So why the fuck are you talking to Black people? Specifically African Americans and Afro-Caribbean peoples that were brought to this area as literal fucking property. Bitch, we know. We fucking know. Why are you talking to us? Why are you telling us what we need to do? We already know what needs to be done. You need to be talking to people that look like you. I've consistently said that white internet leftists can't tell me a fucking thing about what needs to be done to dismantle systems of oppression, because a lot of you don't actually want to do that. You want to figure out a way to exploit it. And if you didn't have to deal with racism, specifically anti-blackness, because a lot of you are racist and anti-black, you would never deal with it. You would never want to dismantle those systems because you understand how you particularly benefit from it as a white person. So I don't trust you guys trying to lecture me about what my revolutionary ancestors or our revolutionary leaders would have said, specifically being that we actually have people that lived that life, that told us firsthand accounts of it. I just find it odd that you guys don't see it. You don't do this to any other group except for Black people. You would never ever tell Jewish people what their lived experience is, specifically when it pertains to the Holocaust. You would never tell Palestinians about what's happening to them and their lived experience in Palestine, specifically what's happening to them right now. You only do it to Black people, and you expect for us not to see your anti-Blackness. Bitch, get the fuck out of my comments.
I never told people not to vote for Kamala Harris. I don't know why people are lying about me. All I said was that I'm not voting for Kamala Harris because I'm not going to vote for a baby killer genocide queen. Why would people translate that to don't vote for her? I don't understand. I never said don't vote for Kamala Harris. All I said was that if you were voting for Kamala Harris, you were a straight up fascist. You weren't in community with me anymore. None of your activism outside of this vote even matters. And that if you were to vote Democrat or try to promote the Democratic Party, you were a deeply evil, disgusting class traitor and imperialist scum. That's all I said. They're being disingenuous as fuck, thinking that all of that means don't vote for Kamala Harris. Stupid. No, yeah, these people are totally disingenuous. And you know what these disingenuous idiots said about me? They said that I told people not to vote. I never said don't vote. All I said was that voting isn't real activism and it doesn't matter because both parties are exactly the same. How is that going to translate to don't vote? And yeah, sure, I spent like 3 months putting that message out there. And then, like, at the last 2 weeks, I switched it up to tell people to get voting information from the link in my bio. People could vote for the Democrat, but like, I wasn't going to say it directly because I'm not a fucking sellout who is paid by the Democratic Party. I was just paid by a different voting rights organization whose voting guide promoted voting for Democrats. No, yeah, these people are so disingenuous, right, guys? Because I never said anything like either of you two. I just reposted your videos to my followers and then engaged in the weekly discourse in a way that emboldened your arguments and your videos without ever pointing out that Donald Trump was bad. Like, I mean, we didn't do anything wrong. It's not wrong to just talk shit about liberals and the Democratic Party when they do bad things. Okay, like, everybody knows Republicans are bad. It doesn't matter that I just spent all of my time never validating that argument and never pointing out the evil things that Trump said on his platform. People are so disingenuous thinking that I didn't care about this election and that I wanted Trump to win. I'm a real leftist, so I understand that liberals are actually the greatest impediment to our freedom, not actual fascists. The liberals are the real fascists, right, guys? Guys, do you know what this is? People trying to point out that we spread dangerous rhetoric during the election that confused progressive left-leaning voters, which ultimately helped Donald Trump win the election. No, it's McCarthyism.
Okay, so I'm not going to mention what I'm actually talking about in this video because I think that for whatever reason, TikTok doesn't want me to. But I'm going to share some thoughts I have about this and hopefully you guys can piece it together. So right now, there was a video going around where this leftist who's in a little bit of hot water for, you know, being racist, common conversation we end up having on here, is making the argument that the criticism that she's receiving right now is why so many people leave the left and end up going to MAGA. And here's the thing. We do need to grant this premise. We do need to entertain the reality, which is that there are a lot of people, let's just be frank, we're talking about white people. There are a lot of white people who maybe grew up more conservative because of their family, right? They grew up in bastions of whiteness where they were separated from people of color and they were able to be really ignorant about some shit. Then they went away to college, right? Then they started to meet different people and then they started to shift a little bit more to the left. And that process for them was a lot of work. It was really, really stressful because they started to know certain people from these groups because they broke out of their white bastion and went into a more diverse community. They were able to kind of start to really genuinely develop a bit of empathy, right? But now we're in a situation where stuff is starting to get kind of real for a lot of people. And some of us who actually suffer under this have to sort of make a decision about who exactly we give our time, energy, attention, and consideration to. And the problem with the situation we're in right now is the amount of time that it genuinely takes for someone to really, truthfully, realistically unpack bias versus the amount of time we really have, right, between now and when things get so much worse is actually quite small, right? It's very, very small. And so there are a lot of people who are sick of seeing, for example, the anti-blackness on the leftist side because they recognize that it's actually now going to end up becoming a liability, right? Anti-blackness, especially right now, I think some people, for whatever reason, haven't pieced this together, is substantially more dangerous to Black people, right? And some people who have shifted their perspective over the years to be more left look at some of the criticism that Black people have of what they're doing, and they get frustrated. and they become angry that people aren't celebrating them for their growth. And suddenly the position they used to be in starts to seem a little bit more, you know, safe for them. And that's because that's where they actually are, right? They're really only willing to do these things if it keeps them safe. And I think that over the years, we've tried to have conversations about performative activism. We've tried to have conversations about how you may be making these posts online, but for people who have an interaction with you, sometimes they experience that you still have ism. And then people do this thing. And this is what's really frustrating, where instead of hearing that criticism, they stomp their feet and say, but I've changed so much, but I'm so much less racist than my friends and family that I've walked away from in order to be on the left, right? And I don't think that a lot of people who have this mentality register that when you treat anti-blackness as a conversation that we can never have at any stage of anything, you really are solidly communicating that you are racist. And what's a bit frustrating to me, the meta conversation about a lot of this is, you know, a lot of you just don't want to admit that you're racist. And I'm not trying to say that as like some sort of power thing that I'm not trying to, some people think that whenever we do this thing where we call people racist, it's about us gaining something from it, right? Like there's this way that a lot of white people literally cannot comprehend people talking about racism without trying to make money about it or trying to draw attention to themselves or just try, self victimhood, right? Like a lot of white people, they genuinely struggle to comprehend two really basic things, right? They struggle to comprehend that they are racist. And as an extension of that, maybe because of that, they struggle to understand how deep-seated racism is. A lot of people have not really registered that when you are a white person organizing something that is predominantly about the de-radicalization of white people, right? And you view anti-blackness as a conversation that is a waste of time, that is derailing, that is ruining things, that is, making, a bigger issue of something that doesn't need to be made a big issue of. All you're going to cultivate naturally is a group of people who are racist. And I think that that's what people are always trying to communicate to you. And trust me, look, you guys, I've been around for a while. I've had these conversations for so long. It's the same conversation over and over and over again in the same response. You have these people who want the street cred for being anti-racist, but then when they move in ways that seem racist, they point at the things that they only did performatively as evidence of them not being racist, not understanding that there were certain decisions that you would just make if you weren't racist, right? See, the problem is, and I think this is actually kind of another meta conversation, we've started to think of politics as this thing that we perform, this set of actions, these posts that we make on the internet, right? Making sure that we put pronouns in our bio or say free Palestine, right? But there's our actions that I think, in my opinion, matter so much more. You can say that you are opposed to anti-blackness, but when you constantly treat Black people as if they exist in a paternal position beneath you, as if they could never possibly comprehend the little bit of experience that you have, right? As if every one of their concerns is a derailment, as if every single thing they have to contribute is not really something that should be focused on or centered, but simply something that should be, hand waved and acknowledged publicly as a show of performance of your so-called anti-blackness, right? You have to understand that when it's all performative, it's never actually used.ful. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. And the mistake I think some people make is they pretend. And here's really what I really want to communicate in this video. I do wish that more leftists were honest about them being racist, right? And I'm not and I'm not one of these people who's like, oh my God, leftists are racist or whatever. Like, I'm not. I already know that there's a good amount of people who are leftists who are not doing the bullshit that's on here. When I say this, I'm really referring to this brand of TikTok leftist that ends up getting the most fucking attention, and they get the most attention for a reason, right? So many of you are just, you're doing this thing where you conflate your marketability under capitalism in a white supremacist system with having the most important, most experienced, most informed voice in the conversation. And it's not true. And I honestly do think that for some of these white creators, there is a degree of envy they have. And I've never really been able to think, to like explain what this is. I do think sometimes they have like an envy for how Black women especially are tapped into like the source, right? They're tapped into what it actually feels like to be oppressed in this country. And some of these people, they have to read about it. And I think that what happens is whenever we have these conversations, they always think that we're having them to destroy whatever they're doing because it's a grift for most of them, right? They never think that we're just trying to help you do better. It's always antagonistic. And if you read some of those messages, you really do get that understanding that they are never really able to really ever hear that criticism from Black people is not necessarily cancellation. I've had that conversation so many times on here. There have been so many times I've tried to have dialogue with white leftists on here, and instead it's been interpreted as beef or antagonism. And we're really never going to go anywhere until you guys work on that.
So I've come to the conclusion that a lot of the reason why these faux revolutionary internet leftists believe that Donald Trump has distanced himself from Israel is because Trump is currently engaging in a Gulf tour, and Israel isn't on that tour. So basically, Trump is on the tour of the Gulf states, and no one is asking why. No one is actually paying attention to why. So recently, the UN threatened to pull billions of dollars in aid to El Salvador if they did not stop taking these migrant flights from the United States. The reason why the UN threatened to do this is because those migrants on that flight were clearly not receiving due process before they were placed on those flights and then sent to El Salvadoran prisons. Most of the migrants on those flights were being labeled as MS-13 with no evidence, no nothing. They were just placed on those flights and labeled as MS-13 gang members. We all know the story of Kilmar Burgo Garcia, but there are multiple stories just like his where they have been sent to an El Salvadorian prison without any due process and labeled as MS-13 gang members. So El Salvador is no longer a place where Trump can send migrants to. So what is Trump doing in the Middle East? What is he doing in the Gulf states? And North Africa is also included in this conversation also. Well, it tells me that the people that are making this claim don't look outside of the confirmation bias echo chamber that they surround themselves with. As I pointed out in my video yesterday, Trump is not distancing himself from Israel because he just had conversations with high-ranking Israeli officials as late as Thursday. So because Trump can't send any more migrants to El Salvador because the El Salvadoran president doesn't want to lose billions of dollars in aid that he's receiving from the UN that he knows he won't get from the Trump administration, Trump is shopping around in Arab and North African states to see if they will take these migrant flights without proof of due process. He won't put this burden on Israel. That's why he's not traveling to Israel during his Gulf tour. He's trying to see if these Arab and North African states will take these flights without due process. And that includes pro-Palestine protesters. You guys are in that inclusion, that you will be on these flights to whatever country and imprisoned in those countries without due process. I know you guys are so keen on protecting that proximity to whiteness, but at some point you're going to have to wake up and realize that this man is not better for you than Kamala Harris. I don't know why you guys are still trying to run with this argument. And a lot of the reason why you believe that, again, is because you want to protect that proximity to whiteness so much that you're willing to put your own people at risk, your own selves at risk, just to protect that proximity, just to not acknowledge that Black people got it right this election cycle. You see, when people get upset at Black people for saying fuck around and find out, it just tells me that they don't know that we already knew what this country was capable of. You didn't. And I've seen this testimony time and time again by people that didn't take Donald Trump's threats seriously, people that were never Kamala, people that said anyone but Kamala Harris, that they did not believe that it would be this bad, that they did not believe that Donald Trump would do this to them. And that says a lot about a lot of people, is you didn't believe that you would be impacted, and you didn't care about the people that you knew would be impacted. And even though you see this man doing all of the things that he's doing, deporting Palestinian students for expressing free speech rights at protests, you're still trying to find little pieces to make him appear as if he's a good person that you didn't do for Kamala Harris, who literally advocated for a ceasefire, worked behind the scenes at the Biden administration so that Biden could stop seeing Palestinians that were losing their lives as collateral damage, spoke out on many different occasions about what she would do different from the Biden administration pertaining to Palestinian people, advocated for a two-state solution. She didn't use Palestinian as a racial slur like Donald Trump to insult a presidential opponent. Every American has some fault in what's happening over there because our tax dollars help fund these things, and it is incumbent upon us to hold our politicians accountable when they don't adhere to international law. And that's what Black people were telling people to do in this year's election. We were telling you that Kamala Harris is not perfect. We don't expect for the Democratic Party to save us, but we understand the differences between the two parties, between the two presidential candidates. One is telling us that you're not going to have a chance, while the other one, we know that we would have a fighting chance. Donald Trump is the one that wouldn't give you a fighting chance. And the fact that y'all still don't see this is so insanely frustrating. Again, Black people, we're not in the fuck around and find out stages. You guys are. Because you still don't know how bad this country can be. How bad these white, bigoted conservatives like Donald Trump can be. But you're going to learn. You're going to learn. And you're also going to learn that those full revolutionary internet white leftists that keep putting the battery on your back so that you could be anti-Black will abandon you in the first opportunity they get for the next cause that they can colonize. It's their skins that they put on to make themselves appear as if they're good people. But they are no different from their white conservative counterparts. You're going to see. You're going to see. If you see internet leftists talking about Trump separating from Israel as a possibility, and they say that they verified their sources, understand that they didn't verify their sources. They are repeating a story that was told to a news outlet by an unverified source. All of these news outlets that they are verifying are repeating a story from an unverified source. Now, when you look at the empirical data and evidence, there's nothing that makes this argument that Trump is separating from Israel. As late as Wednesday, Trump reaffirmed his alliance with Netanyahu. As late as Thursday, Trump had a meeting, a private meeting that was not reported by the United States or Israel, with top Israeli officials and top Republicans. There's absolutely nothing that makes the argument that Trump is separating from Israel. And if you see internet leftists claiming that they verified their sources, they are once again lying. There's absolutely no way you can verify an unverified source. It is literally someone coming in and making a claim, planting a story, and the media reporting on it, and not telling you who this individual is. And these are the same people that have consistently said that the media is trash. But they will run with these stories from unverified sources, and they won't even think twice about why these stories are being planted. What are they distracting them from? Because they just don't like the Democrats that much.
This is all I got from this video. And I am going to say this. When Black people try to criticize or tell you people how they feel, it is not because they want to talk or because they want to call you racist. But the truth is that majority, you all are actually racist, right? Yeah, you are actually one. Now, I am going to ask this. Why is it that it's only Black people that are, I see everybody have something to say about them, especially how they should feel about how you treat them, how they should react about how you treat them. Because how do you treat somebody badly and expect the person to smile at you? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Sincerely speaking, it doesn't make any sense, right? So at this point in time, I am going to tell you this, right? You all get yours together and let Black people be. I see a lot of you all coming to Black content creators comment section to like criticize them, to call them names. Why are you calling them names when you are supposed to push your anger, whatever the problem is that is worrying you, push it to this present administration? You all are calling them that they helped, like they wanted to vote in G-Sider and all that, telling them, wait, like, what is all this? You did not vote for Kamala Harris. She did not win. She's a private citizen and she has actually left you all faces. But you all are still looking for a way to call Black people to tell them that they are the cause of the problem of what is going on. How? How is it that you voted for Justine that never for a day come out after election? If you are looking for Black people to speak up for you, go and call Justine. Better still, call Justine. I don't know if that does make sense. Go and call her. Let her come and assist you people. Yeah, I am sure you all don't even understand what is going on. Maybe Israel saying that they are controlling to Gaza, or you are saying that they are going to level Gaza and all that. Was this not part of the thing they told you people about this present administration? Did they lie about it? Did they lie? Of course, no. This was something this woman was working so hard to see how she could stop. And you all mistook a vice president for a president. That is how ignorant majority of you are. Now, I do not hear any of you calling J.D. Vance, but it's always strong. And that is how the energy should have been channeled during her own regime. But no, it is Black people. It is Black people. You all are so anti-Black that each time they call Black people, there is nothing you can say or do aside from look for a way to antagonize people that look like me. I don't know what's going on. My light went off. I guess there is light, but my ring light. But it's okay. You can see me, right? And I am going to wrap it up soon. So you all should get it all together and leave Black people out of this, because last I checked, they are not the cause of your problems, or no, they are not the cause of what is going on in Palestine now. What is going on in the United States is because you all have a different administration. Let Black people be. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.